There will be super personalized content dependent on my mood by the second, mixed with the ability to be able to engage with my favorite players on demand. I think being able to consume content and view in very different experiences and being close to the play, so to say, is something very, very exciting.
Welcome to The Future Of, a podcast by Fresh Consulting, where we discuss and learn about the future of different industries, markets, and technology verticals. Together, we'll chat with leaders and experts in the field and discuss how we can shape the future human experience. I'm your host, Jeff Dance. In this episode of The Future Of, we're joined by Charlie Kurian, Director of Innovation and Strategy for the Spurs, a 5-time NBA championship team. We're also joined by Johnny Rodriguez, Fresh's Senior Director of Innovation and Head of Fresh Labs. We're here to talk about the future of sports and fan engagement. Guys, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for having us here.
I want to give a little bit of a brief background, and then I'd love to hear more about your journey as well. At the Spurs, Charlie is responsible for driving innovation through artificial intelligence, behavioral science, design thinking, and immersive technologies like VR, MR, and AR. So we definitely speak the same language. Over the last decade, Charlie's work in technology, sports, and venture capital placed him at the forefront of emerging technology, including recently generative AI. So with quite a bit of experience, I think over 10 years in venture capital, consumer tech, SaaS, and in even helping with incubation. Charlie's kind of design thinking driven solutions have, from our understanding, generated over 500 million in revenue and have been replicated by renowned organizations such as the NBA and the Robert F. Kennedy Center of Justice. So a lot of significant accomplishments, especially kind of at this intersection of technology and sports, where we're thinking about the future of fan engagement. I'm grateful to have you here with all that depth, Charlie. For Johnny, Johnny's been with Fresh for over 10 years. He's our Fresh Senior Director of Innovation, and as I mentioned, Head of Fresh Labs, which is an innovation arm that focuses on prototyping, educating, and building with emerging technologies, many of the same emerging technologies that Charlie is also leading out on. And as part of the learning and education efforts, Fresh Labs has reached over 6 million people, created, I think, over 300 pieces of thought leadership. Johnny's also the co-founder of Brancher.ai, which is a no-code platform pioneering the democratization of generative AI by branching different models together and equipping both like technical people and non-technical people to use AI. And we've used that in our work together with Charlie as well. So that platform has over 130,000 users and growing, and is soon to be also an enterprise platform as well, which is where kind of generative AI is going, and that's making a big impact in sports. So that's some high level background, but guys, tell me more. Charlie, if I can start with you, tell me more about your journey, kind of personally getting into sports innovation and fan experience.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, for that wonderful intro. I never intended to start in the sport innovation field. That was never the end game or never the plan. I'd like to say that I accidentally stumbled upon it. The way that I think about it is there's a healthy part of my brain that is very creative, which is the whole design thinking, human, empathetic, understanding people side of it. But then there's a healthy part of my brain which is very analytical and numbers driven. And nice. I've always been on a quest to merge those two. And quite literally, that's resulted in the wonderful opportunity to have been part of organizations that have been super disruptive, as in, even if that's Apple or how NBA has been leading things on the forefront of international development in sport landscape, or even something like taking bets on the fastest growing startups in venture capital. That disruptive mindset kind of collided with the passion of having grown up playing sport and having really loved sport. And when the opportunity presented itself to join wonderful organization with such a level of success and be part of their story and leading them to the future, it felt like a perfect merge of background, interests, passions, and here we are.
Nice. That's exciting. What do you do for fun?
I'm a washed up athlete, so I
Okay.
did have a short stint as a professional soccer player.
Hey.
Anything that gets me out, and if I can be competitive and if I can still play a sport, that definitely, my wife would say she loses me to those things. Other than that, a lot of people don't know this, but I have a parallel life where I'm an audio engineer and I produce big events and I go on tours with big artists that we all have heard of and
Wow.
do mix front of house and do a whole bunch of production stuff. So that's another passion of mine. So
Hey
between those
man,
two things, it keeps me busy.
you're multidimensional. You would fit really well here at Fresh. We got a lot of left brain, right brain people that cross the spectrum and frequently and are multi-talented. Johnny's one of those. Johnny, over to you. Tell us a bit more about your experience. I know you've been here over a decade, and you started as a designer and developer, and then kind of grew into our director of innovation. Love to hear more about your journey.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that. And by the way, Charlie, we're gonna have to connect on that audio engineering side. For all the time we've worked together, I didn't know about that part of your background, so we're gonna have to overlap there a little bit. But yeah, I'd be happy to share more about my background a little bit. I would say staying on top of the latest around emerging technology has always been uh, part of my hobbies, and I would say part of my DNA, and being an early adopter of tech. And I would say that I've always tried to infuse that with anything that I've done, whether that's design or development work, and then just trying to help educate and share that to, I don't know if it's my project teams or functional teams and beyond. And so I would say this is why my journey at Fresh has been so dynamic and I would say deeply fulfilling for me, because I joined Fresh over 10 years ago and kind of came in this design and development role and focus on creating really just trying to build engaging and intuitive user experiences, and then moving into more of the design and development leadership roles that allowed me to work on the bigger, more complex projects. And that requires that blend of the creative and technical expertise, I think, that Charlie was talking about, and developing a sense for how to balance aesthetics with functionality. So, being in this role is an incredible opportunity. I get the opportunity to spearhead initiatives that both drive internal and external product development, but also be able to kind of experiment and integrate cutting edge technologies like the AI, the generative AI, AR, VR, areas. So this kind of approach has been, like, again, really fulfilling. But I guess that's a little bit of a view into that background. Yeah, in this decade here at Fresh Consulting.
Thank you. John is definitely very multidimensional. Charlie, you have to ask him about his semi-professional beatboxing career, and he's also a member of our Fresh band. So it's fun to hang out with him. Well, let's dive into. Thanks for the background. Let's dive into the kind of the current state of fan engagement, some of the things we're hearing, and then move our way into the future. Laying the groundwork of like why fan engagement matters so much. Deloitte did a recent study that said that more than 60% of fans say a great year-round experience would make them more likely to be more engaged with the team in the coming season, and 55% said it would make them more likely to purchase a ticket in the future. So there's a lot of interest around fan engagement. They also said that those who engage only once a month in the off season spend 40% more than fans who have no engagement in the off season. So there's obviously an interest from those that are that own sports teams or that are involved with sports to kind of make those connections as well, because that engagement creates more community, obviously more revenue, more opportunities to connect with sports. And sports for a lot of people, it's almost like religion. It's like this is their lifeblood. This is like part of the family DNA. It's so deeply personal to them, and so this engagement matters so much. And yet we have so many other tools, so many of the dynamic things happening. The engagement is up leveling in so many different ways. But Charlie, for you, like, how would you define fan engagement? And can you give us some examples? We're talking that it's a big thing, but can you give us some examples across the spectrum of, not just the physical, but also the digital experience?
Yeah. I think for me, fan engagement starts with a deep curiosity. It's about understanding the existing or new behaviors of who we call our fans and how people like to move between those behaviors. And then brands like us, Spurs, or any pro sports team can develop very genuine and authentic experiences that enable the behaviors and connect them to whatever they're fans of. Um, and so, at a high level, that's really what I think it is. And examples that we all know, physical, the best way, right? Like stepping into an arena and actually watching a game and experiencing and taking in every single thing. That is a way of fan experience. Another example is buying a merch to be able to celebrate that and to show my peers. I mean, I'm wearing one, right? Love the WNBA right now. I know it's on
Yeah.
all-time high. But as a father of a daughter, absolutely relate with it and what that means for her. So that's me expressing my fandom, and that's they're engaging me very well. But it doesn't stop at the physical realm of it. There's digital ways to engage that we are all familiar. You can go on any of your social media profiles, and the content that you engage in, how you react, and how you share that across, and how you broadcast that with your own voice. That's another way. And then all the way from there to the more cutting edge ways of being able to actually bet your resources on the outcomes and engage in that way. So it's kind of a wide divide from one end to the other end.
Thank you. Tell us more about what some of the things that the Spurs is doing that either piloting or experimenting with. Maybe some things that have been successful or new.
Especially since the time that I've been on, I think one of the things that I really love about the Spurs is that they don't get enough credit for this. And this, I'm not saying this because I work there, but there is almost a daily conflict on, hey, what are our fans saying? What are we hearing from them? And the healthy tension between all of the emerging things that are coming, and then folks grounding us and asking, is that what our fans are saying? Or what are we hearing that's leading us to believe that this is actually what they need? And so quite literally, an example of something that we piloted alongside of Fresh, you guys, is something called Fan GPT. As the GPT craze was booming towards the end of last year, we were, I believe, one of the first ones to be able to think about, hey, it would be incredibly amazing and engaging to be able to put a kiosk that leverages some search functionality and some GPT functionality so that anybody that's on the concourse that's walking by can search whatever they want to search about the arena or the game related, and actually take those results to be able to go on their phone and carry along. But we had an incredible insight as we tested that along. We realized that the search functionality was primarily used for people just wanting to know where the bathroom was or where the closest Pizza Hut was. And from qualitative understanding, we learned that fans in a loud environment, in a time where they came for the excitement of wanting to actually go to the game and see their players, were not really interested in standing in the hallway and typing on a big screen to be able to get an answer. So great technology. The learning was that probably not the right usage of it. But that's one area where we were quick to be able to test and pilot something, but then relentless about what is the feedback we're hearing and how can we iterate along that.
Nice. That follows that design thinking approach for sure. That's great. I heard that you guys both recently worked on something that kind of tied physical and digital together in this emerging technology space. Johnny, can you give us some more background on that project and what kind of milestone or results you guys saw from that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak to it from I'll kind of give you an overview of what it was, and I think I know Charlie, you can probably fill it in here with some of the results and how it was kind of received. But I would say, it's an incredible fan engagement initiative from the San Antonio Spurs, where we had an opportunity to collaborate and build. Essentially, with the recently launched Apple Vision Pro. Being one of the most high quality and immersive XR headsets on the market now from a consumer side, there was this opportunity there to engage with fans, create an experience that was extremely high end, and also be able to allow fans to kind of engage with some of the actual players, starters of the San Antonio Spurs. And so the experience allowed a fan, and this was actually at South by Southwest, as well as some of the games that happened in Austin, but it allowed fans to be able to put on the Apple Vision Pro, do some light onboarding, about a minute long onboarding, to kind of track and see, where they're, clicking on different elements of the screen, see where their eyes are looking. There's a lot of unique things there with Apple Vision Pro. But then also, as soon as they kind of jumped into that experience, they're able to see a 3D version of some of their favorite players, right? And they're kind of moving around, and there was some intentional animation built in to bring that to life. And paired with the realism of the Apple Vision Pro, it made for a really, again, a really incredible kind of experience there, to kind of walk up and compare your height to some of these incredibly tall, basketball players playing professional sports, but also, be able to, get some actual proximity using spatial environments and be able to have some proximity to these players. And so it just really showcased how advanced AR can really bring fans closer to the action. And I would say it's a fantastic example of how the San Antonio Spurs are leveraging cutting edge technology to enhance fan interaction and engagement, and really, in my opinion, setting this new standard for sports marketing and fan engagement.
Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for these particular examples. I could see where, if you can compare yourself to a player and kind of be more up close and personal, where that would otherwise be hard. I can see that how that could be a cool home experience as well. Being able to talk to that person and embody their personality with generative AI would probably be another next step that would be really interesting, obviously with their permission. But those are pretty cool examples. As we think about, some of the bigger things that are happening with fan engagement as it's evolving, what are you guys seeing as like big themes? Charlie, for you, like what are some of the biggest ways that things are trending right now?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. It's one that I know I personally am thinking of every day. I think it's interesting, going back to what I initially said about the behaviors of fans. I think it's interesting to see what we're seeing quite literally from the behaviors of our fans. So I'll paint a little bit of context on the front end. Everybody knows we onboarded a generational talent last year, Victor Wembanyama, and in the wake of that, we have seen an incredible uptake and a shift in our fan base. Our fans have grown much younger by about 10 to 15 years from a season average standpoint. So quite literally, we've been thinking about how do we welcome this new wave of fans, but more importantly, how do we retain? And to that end, what we embarked on last year was a thorough understanding of what they value and what they really care about, and we're in an ongoing pursuit of that. And as we see behaviors, I think some things that jump top of mind, or I think the coming generation, or even the millennials or down to Gen Z, we're seeing that their behaviors are showing they consume content in multimodal and omni-channel view. So they may not always be the first ones to get to the arena and be there for the entire game. And let's say even in a global landscape, they may not view the game end to end. They're more so your folks that are going to be on Instagram, that are going to watch a highlight of a dunk, and they are going to immediately take that, tag somebody, or share that. Jump modes and jump into an NBA 2K and try out that team, try out that player, and play with them. Jump modes and see if they can bet on it. Jump modes and buy merch that may be from the direct fan shop or even be cross-related. So we're seeing this onboarding of all of these different modes. So for us, it's top of mind. How do we create an ecosystem, and what are the technology and tools that enable us to support these behaviors that we're seeing on multiple fronts? So I'm incredibly excited of how the behaviors are changing and how the viewing patterns are changing, and actively thinking about, especially in the wave of AI and all of the things that we're seeing, what enables us to be able to support these behaviors and fans digest content on their own time, on demand, wherever they want to, however they want to.
Yeah. It's fascinating to think about all the different engagement patterns that are going. And how the revenue is probably shifting across that entire spectrum as well. Johnny, what are your thoughts on the biggest ways fan engagement has evolved recently?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I love that context there that you gave, Charlie, of how fans, younger fans, are kind of experiencing and engaging with professional sports teams, specifically with the Spurs. I mean, I think the perspective that I'm coming from is definitely more on the technology side. So I'm seeing the evolution and the kind of incremental progress that we're seeing almost on a daily, if not weekly, if not daily basis with AI. And also with XR. So coming from this from a technology standpoint, as this is becoming more and more advanced, I'm seeing a lot of a big wave coming here of more personalization and more control to the fan. And AI is allowing teams and organizations to analyze vast amounts of and data in ways that weren't possible in the past, and allowing teams to understand more around individual fan preference and behaviors, and I think this enables the creation of really highly tailored content. And Charlie talked about sharing a dunk and Instagram. So like this level of like personalized highlight reels, or customized marketing efforts, or overall kind of fan experience improvements. So that's kind of a big one. And then on the AR VR kind of side of things, on immersing technologies, just the ability to make it possible for fans to be closer to the action in ways that they may not have been able to do so in the past. Those are kind of the categories that came to mind with that question.
Thanks for sharing. This brings us kind of nicely into the future. Let's talk about that. Charlie, for you, as we kind of fast forward 10 to 20 years, like how do you see fan engagement and the fan experience evolving?
Such a tough question, Jeff. I feel like I'm struggling to keep up with the advancements over the last 6 months. But it's an equally exciting question. I think something's top of mind, and especially I think I'm pulling from maybe some of the ways that fellow investors are betting on companies.
Yep.
That's usually a good trend of how folks are thinking about where the world is headed.
Yep.
Something that Johnny touched on. I think being able to consume content and view in very different experiences and being close to the play, so to say, is something very, very exciting. Quite literally, one example which we're actually considering piloting and in conversations with is, with the coming of Apple Vision Pro and the existence of other VR, AR headsets, over time, I think some of the cost barrier of that goes down and as adoption increases. So somebody sitting in my hometown in India can have a courtside experience of what it feels like to be at a Spurs game without ever leaving their house. And it's important to flag that doesn't mean the live experiences go away. I think the live experiences have a very crucial place,
right?
Because at the end of the day, sport is as much about community, as much about just consuming the content. But the ability to give folks, 90% of our fans for Spurs will never enter arena. The ability to be able to give them that experience is incredibly exciting. Then there are other areas which I think will really change in terms of hyper personalized content that people will be able to see. I think apps will blend in, and I think apps will be a one-stop shop where it's not a standalone app for different things. I think there will be super personalized content dependent on my mood by the second and what exactly what I want to see, mixed with the ability to be able to engage with my favorite players on demand, have conversations with them. I think those things are incredibly exciting. And then there's the sporting side of things. From a commentary standpoint, when you think about it, I think we will have very precise level of being able to deliver data and predictions right in the commentary, which help somebody digest content in a very different way. Two, I see a world where also as Apple Vision Pro or any other headset becomes a lot more smaller in its actual size, what does it look like to actually, even if I'm in an arena, to be able to see the game and see who's on the court and get real-time data, which allows me to understand the game in a very different way. As a student of the game, I may want to understand how Kobe Bryant would break down that game and the play, while a peer that is there for social reasons just wants to understand what's the name of that player while another peer that's really about wanting to take their bets understands the data behind it and is able to place a real-time bet and engage in a very different way.
Wow.
So that's a long way of saying it's very exciting. You can clearly tell from my tone, but I think this wave of AI is incredibly bullish in what it can do for the future of engagement and consumption of content in general.
So a big merge of kind of the digital and physical experiences, afar, up close. It's not just afar, but also in the real time environment, bringing in that additional data or engagement or intel or connection.
Yeah.
Nice, Johnny. What are your thoughts as we think about the future, kind of 10 to 20 years from now?
As I think about the future, and thinking about the technologies that will be pivotal for shaping the future of fan engagement, the categories that immediately come to mind, as I think about in stadium, I would say definitely biometric technologies around being able to make access to clubs, access just to the entrances, really seamless and more frictionless. I think we see those today, but in 20 years, I think we will see that kind of fully adopted, where we don't have to think about having any type of physical ticket, and that would be completely optional. But being able to kind of move around freely and be able to do so in a frictionless way. As we think about the potentially the around 90% that are not going into the stadiums, the categories that come to mind are definitely in line with some of what Charlie was mentioning. As I think about extended reality, the XR category of augmented and virtual reality, I'm excited to see the evolution of what's going to happen with VR. Today, you can sit and see a 180-degree view of a game, either under the basket for the NBA or like on the the half court, right? And if you're watching football games, they'll put you at the 50-yard line. So there is some level of that today. I think that we're going to see deeper immersion, some of what Charlie was talking here, but deeper immersion around the VR experiences. So it will really revolutionize the way, you'll kind of watch some of the games, especially as the quality goes up on the cameras and you're getting lower and lower latency, which I think it leads me over to like the connectivity, the higher speeds of connectivity right now. If we think about 5G, high speed, low latency 5G, it's going to enable more real time interactive experiences, things like multi-angle replays and live stats. If anybody saw the World Cup that just happened, a few years ago, fans that were actually in the stadium at Qatar would hold up their phone and use augmented reality from their screen, and from their particular angle, they could actually see the players running around on the field, and they could see the speed that they were running, what the open areas were, all in real time. And so this type of technology allows you to see these new angles. I'm hoping we also see, as we think about watching these experiences on our televisions at home, I'm also hoping that we get more control over what angles we want to watch the games. We've seen some games this season in the NBA that they take a few cameras in the stadium to basically recreate in 3D what's happening on a basketball court. So you're getting replays where you're seeing 360-degree views or 180-degree views of players dunking the basketball. Or in the NFL, you're seeing collaboration with Disney, for example. I think it was like mid-October, Falcons versus Jaguars. They televised a game that I watched with my kids on, I think it was Disney, but we watched an entire football game live, and it was all themed to Toy Story. So it was, players all looked like kind of Toy Story, related. But anyway, it's just the enablement of these type of technologies all kind of coming together and allowing to create these really immersive kind of experiences. So those are the few things that come to mind. I'm sure we could talk about a few more there, but those are the ones I'm kind of most excited about and hoping to kind of keep an eye on, and also hoping to help shape, as we think about our collaboration with the San Antonio Spurs and sports in general, help move the needle there.
Nice. I hadn't thought about like how much personalization you could have or how much creativity you can have. But obviously, when you overlay the data from the analytical or sports betting side or visuals, from a creative side, the options are endless, especially with all the new camera tech, right? That makes things so much more visible and real from afar. That's great. And that leads me to the stat that I read about the Sports Business Institute, saying that nearly 90% of fans watching a live sports broadcast also use a secondary screen. for things like social media, chatting, email, consuming news, etc. Charlie, you were talking about jumping, like between experiences. So, 90% of people are essentially are jumping. Do we think that behavior will continue, or will with some of this new immersive technology, will some of that go away? Any thoughts on that, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm bullish on the the pattern of digesting content on multiple platforms continuing. I think the need to switch devices and technologies and consume that, I think, will go away. And it'll, to Johnny's point, I think it'll just become a seamless experience. What I want to consume, where I want to consume, I think we'll get to a point where it'll all be just in front of me. I just need to be able to just pick. I don't have to check out, turn my eyes away, and pick something else up.
Right. It's more integrated to kind of where you are at present. That's kind of my philosophy as well. Like, I feel like, screens have got narrow into these small devices that these computers we carry in our pocket. But I think as we have more immersive technologies, more AR, then I think we come back to like widening out into more natural experiences, especially with the advent of AI, where that is the new UI in a sense, but we're not limited to smaller screens. So I resonate with that. What about do we risk losing any of the in-fan experience, like particularly on site, or does that become like a premium offering that's just sort of integrated? Any thoughts on, or have you seen any trends related to in-fan engagement going away because you have so much to offer remote to the actual experience?
Yeah, I think no, we haven't seen that at all. I think, and maybe that some of that is because our fan base is still evolving, and we're quite early in this precipice of consumption of content in the way that we're talking about. But more than ever, we've seen a premium on in-game elements. When people are there, they want to be there. They want to use their phones when they want to, but there's no way to compare both. It's not.
Yeah, it seems like with the younger generation, they're so stuck in their devices. The in-person engagement becomes like this new exciting thing that's so it's so immersive and like real, right? It's like it's the new thing, right?
True.
Where for a lot of us that didn't have the immersive technology before, then that was just the normal, right? It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to a game, but this is no, this is a new premium offering. It's real, right? We're actually gonna go in person. Just comparing the two is kind of mind-boggling. What about and this is kind of a deeper topic, but when it comes to ethical considerations, data privacy, security, do you feel like we're designing for a future that is accessible to kind of a diverse range of fans?
Yeah, I think this is the other thing that I think about a lot. I'll tell you, in my household, if you consider me the pro tech guy, my wife is probably the anti-tech person, and I feel like it's so healthy because I think it grounds us really well, especially with our kids. So it's something we think about a lot. I think at the end of the day, I think the way that I think about it is any tool, AI, AR, VR, the explosion of all tech scene is kind of like anything else, any other tool. It's kind of like the introduction of iPhone. It is incredibly powerful, but it has the ability to be used in very destructive ways. I personally would like to see more effort and intentionality behind how to create it in a humane way, and in a human-centered way, rather than lead with just the power and the technology of it. I think there's more opportunity to go there. And I think it starts with that initial thing that I talked about. As long as we keep centered around humans and how to keep them humane and how to drive their interests and behavior and how to build connection through what we're doing, I think we'll always stay grounded. I think if we end up running behind just the tech and just the power and stay one-dimensional in that way, I think we'll end up in a pretty dangerous spot.
Yeah. Johnny, what about you? Any thoughts on the topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of discussion right now around the use of AI and being ethical about the use of AI. And so, as I think about that particular category, think a few categories come to mind, similar to Charlie, but I'm thinking definitely like data privacy and security is, protecting fan data is going to be critical. So although we can get more cameras in a stadium, and although we can create really personalized and hyper personalized experiences, being really, ensuring that there's transparent communication around how that's used, making sure that the systems are safeguarding that personal information, I think will be critical. I think making sure that there's financial accessibility. So as these experiences become more and more available, it's like it'd be great to build it for the Apple Vision Pro, but also how do we make that more affordable? Like make experiences more available to those that might have a more affordable XR headset. Might be something that we're thinking about, or physical accessibility. Hey, there's really cool in-game experiences that are happening. How do we provide these? Making these experiences accessible for fans with disabilities, or visually impaired, or things of that nature. So I think we can get into other categories of like inclusive design and some of those elements as well. But those are the categories that come to mind as I think about we're thinking about the ethical considerations of this type of technology.
Yeah, one of the things I've been impressed with is hearing about how like AR VR devices help people with hearing or seeing disabilities, and then hearing about Uber Eats, how that changed the landscape for people with disabilities, had trouble getting around, or that couldn't drive, and then obviously with AI now, some of the advents from a communication perspective, there's so much potential there to kind of help and do good. But on the other hand, it's like humans, we just don't keep pace with technology, and it has a life of its own, and it evolves, and there's always a dark side, and we don't realize with how fast it moves. We don't realize sometimes how much it shifts our own behavior until we kind of look around. It's like, oh, like, hey, no one's interacting, and so it's definitely something I think we're all thinking about as we think about the future of the human and the technology relationship, and obviously with the blend of digital and physical with sports, and how many people you bring together through those experiences, what you can do for good, and what we have to watch out for ethically. Well, to round out this conversation, I really enjoyed you guys' perspective. Any other thoughts on the future that you want to mention, that you're excited about, or that you're thinking about as it relates to sports and kind of fan engagement? Charlie?
No, it's been incredibly great to be here. I think we all have so much to be excited about. I, for one, as somebody that loves sport and has seen the power of sport, want to continue the bullishness of the sport landscape, how it changes lives. And I love that there is technology that's coming along the way to enable and make things accessible and increase the sense of belonging for people across the board. And I am committed, I know as you guys are, to making sure that it's done in the most safe way possible. So yeah, lots to be excited about, lots to be thinking about, and lots to work forward for.
Nice. It's great to have you at kind of the ground level, in motion, working on some of the things that will shape the future. Johnny, what about you?
Yeah, so similar to Charlie, sports specifically have been such an ingrained part of my culture and my upbringing. I don't think I've missed a Cowboys game my entire upbringing. I don't think I've missed a Mavs game or a Spurs game in my upbringing. It was such a deeply integrated part of my family and the culture and the experience that I was able to have. And so to be able to see these advancements that are happening in technology and be able to participate, play a part in that, and be able to create new, lifelong experiences and memories as this technology continues to advance is what I'm excited about. I'm excited for a future in which my 3 kids will be able to be more engaged and be able to watch the same type of sporting events, but through the flavors that they care about, or with the voices that they recognize. hearing commentating from their dad or their grandpa. I think there's a lot of possibilities that are going to be enabled. So I'm super, super excited about the advancement of these emerging technologies, seeing personalization at scale, getting to that real-time type of interaction and control for fans, and then seeing kind of this evolution of the integration of generative AI and some of the capabilities that's going to provide. So it's an exciting future ahead.
Awesome. One last question to finish up, and that is, as we think about the future of fan engagement, the future of sports, do you guys have any resources, any leaders, blogs, et cetera, things that, if people are really passionate about this topic where, they can also get more inspiration? Any thoughts on where to go?
Yeah, I think for me, if you are particularly passionate about finding the future of sport, I think I would actually encourage to broaden horizons and just find the future of where the world is headed. I feel like you'll be able to weave the sport part right into that and consumption of content and entertainment. I follow, I don't know if you guys know Vinod Khosla. He's a very well-known investor, very, very bullish on some of the things he's predicted and continues to predict. And then I will say that I have my weekly dose of tuning into the All In Pod and the four besties that are on there. It's a great way, I feel like, to be able to hear perspectives that are super divergent from people that are in different spaces that are influencing policies and some of the way capital is being deployed. So those are two of my recommendations.
Thanks. Johnny, what about you?
My recommendation would also be to broaden horizons and look at sports that you haven't particularly focused on. Look at European clubs, look at F1 and some of the advancements that are happening there. Take a look at what's happening with certain sports teams in the NFL and the NBA. Track what's going on with the San Antonio Spurs, and you're going to see, what's the advancements that are happening there, specifically around fan engagement. From a podcast standpoint, I really, really like the Lex Friedman podcast as he relates, as he's interviewing a lot of technology leaders that are in this particular space. So, some of the interviews he's had with Andre Karpathy and some of OpenAI's leaders, Microsoft, a lot of these leaders that are in the kind of AI and XR space are really fascinating. And so I definitely don't miss out on, I try to stay on top of those and see what's happening in that space as I kind of listen to Lex Friedman's podcast. So those are kind of the few that came to my mind.
Thank you both for your insights, for your expertise, for your inspiration. I appreciate your leadership in not only emerging technology, but with sports. And it's going to be fun to see what we can create together. So thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the partnership.
Yes, appreciate the time. Thank you.
The Future of Podcasts is brought to you by Fresh Consulting. To find out more about how we pair design and technology together to shape the future, visit us at freshconsulting.com. Make sure to search for The Future of in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes. And on behalf of our team here at Fresh, thank you for listening.